The war between humans and the Sarathians had lasted for years, raging across shattered planets and dead moons. Entire civilizations were caught in the fire. Yet few on either side spoke of the third race tangled in the conflict, the Lithari. The Lithari were a secretive people, feared even by other aliens. They were called vampires of the stars, feeding not on blood exactly, but on life essence. With long ivory fangs, luminescent eyes, and skin that shimmered faintly in starlight, they seemed more myth than reality. Their ships rarely appeared in the open, and when they did, survivors whispered of haunting beauty and unearthly hunger. On one dying battlefield orbiting the ruin of a shattered station, a Lithari girl lay forgotten. Her name was Celira. Barely past adolescence by her people's measure, she had been betrayed by her own kin during a failed alliance with the Sarathians. Her body was broken, her veins nearly empty of the essence she needed to live. She had been left to die, drifting amid wreckage, her once proud black and silver armor torn to scraps. And it was there that Captain Adrian Holt found her. Adrian was a human soldier turned scavenger, a survivor who had seen too many fronts of the war. His patrol vessel, the Wraith, cruised the orbital graveyard in silence, sensors sweeping for anything worth salvaging, power cores, intact plating, or navigation beacons. He wasn't looking for survivors. There hadn't been survivors in months. But the faint pulse of a life sign flickered across his screen, weak, fading. Against his better judgment, Adrian followed it. He thought it might be a stranded human pilot, or at least someone worth a bounty. Instead, he found her, floating unconscious in a half-crushed escape pod, pale as death, lips parted to reveal the unmistakable glint of fangs. A VampireAlien. Every instinct told him to seal the pod and let it drift into the void. The Lithari were predators, dangerous even when half dead. But when Adrian looked closer, he saw her fingers twitching weakly, saw the faint fog of her breath condensing inside the cracked visor of her helmet. She was alive barely. And against all reason, he opened the pod. Middle. Celira woke in darkness. Not the endless cold of space, but the dim, humming warmth of a ship's medbay. Her body felt heavy, her veins empty, her hunger gnawing at her mind like fire. Instinct screamed for her to feed, to sink her fangs into the first living creature she could find. Then she saw him. The human stood beside the medbed, arms crossed, watching her carefully. His dark uniform was patched and worn, his eyes sharp with both suspicion and curiosity. A plasma pistol rested on the table within easy reach. "You're awake," he said flatly. "I pulled you out of a wreck. You were bleeding out." Celira's throat was dry, her voice a whisper. "Why didn't you let me die?" Adrian didn't answer immediately. He studied her, as though weighing the risk of keeping her alive. Finally he said, "Because I've seen enough death. Even yours." For a long moment, silence stretched between them, heavy with mistrust. Celira shifted, testing her strength, but her body was too weak. She could barely lift her head. "I need," she began, her voice trembling. "Food. Water?" Adrian asked, though he seemed to know the truth. Her eyes glowed faintly, betraying her need. "Life." Adrian's hand tightened near the pistol, but he didn't raise it. "Not from me." He didn't know what compelled him next. Perhaps guilt, perhaps a stubborn refusal to become the kind of man who abandoned others. But Adrian fetched a sealed vial of stored biofluid from the medbay's supply. It wasn't essence, not exactly, but it was infused with cellular energy, meant for rapid healing. He offered it to her, holding it out carefully as though she were a wild animal. Celira drank. It wasn't enough, not nearly, but it stilled the fire in her veins long enough for thought to return. She collapsed back onto the bed, exhausted but alive. "Thank you," she whispered. Adrian didn't reply. He simply turned and left the room, the door locking behind him. Over the next days, Celira lingered between life and death. Adrian rationed supplies, scavenged what he could to keep his ship operational, and kept his distance from the AlienGirl in his medbay. Yet he found himself drawn back to her, checking on her more often than was necessary, asking questions he never thought he would ask. "Why were you alone?" "My people left me," she admitted quietly. "The Sarathians betrayed us, and my kin fled. I was too slow, too weak. They left me for dead." Adrian frowned. "Sounds like war." "You fight in it too," she countered. "Not anymore," he said, his voice hard. "I fight to survive now. That's all." And so it went. Short conversations, wary glances, an unspoken tension between predator and prey. Yet as Celira's strength returned, Adrian noticed something he hadn't expected. She wasn't like the stories. Yes, she was dangerous, and her hunger simmered just beneath her pale skin, but she wasn't a monster. She was frightened. She was lost. She was alone. And she reminded him, painfully, of himself. The fragile peace shattered when raiders came. A Sarathian warband, scavenging the same wreck field, picked up the Wraith's energy signature. Within minutes, Adrian's sensors screamed warnings as 3 attack craft closed in. His ship was small, fast, but poorly armed. Alone, he wouldn't stand a chance. He sprinted to the cockpit, engines flaring, but the Sarathians were already firing. Explosions rocked the hull, alarms blaring. He swore, fighting the controls. Then Celira appeared at the doorway, still weak but standing tall, her eyes burning like twin stars. "Let me fight," she said. Adrian shot her a look. "You can barely walk. I can do more than you think. Let me fight, or we both die." He hesitated only a second before nodding. Celira moved to the weapons console, her slender fingers flying over alien tech as though she were born to it. She interfaced with the ship's systems, her lithary senses extending through the controls like living nerves. Adrian watched in awe as the weak girl from his medbay became something else entirely, a predator reborn. The Wraith's cannons roared, striking with unnatural precision. Celira guided the targeting arrays with uncanny instinct, predicting enemy movements before they made them. 2 raider craft fell in bursts of fire. The third tried to flee, but Celira's voice was cold as she whispered, "No survivors." One final blast reduced it to debris. Silence returned. Adrian's heart pounded. He looked at her, at the faint glow of her fangs in the dim light. "You saved us," he said. She looked back at him, her expression unreadable. "No. You saved me first." Ending. After that battle, something changed between them. The walls of mistrust began to crumble, replaced by something neither wanted to name. Celira no longer avoided his gaze, and Adrian no longer kept the pistol within arm's reach. They talked about the war, about their homes, about the loneliness that haunted them both. Celira spoke of the Lithari homeworld, a place of eternal twilight skies where her people thrived on starlight and essence drawn from willing bonds. Adrian spoke of Earth, a place she could scarcely imagine. Oceans, forests, cities filled with noise and life. "You sound like you miss it," she said softly one night. "I do," Adrian admitted. "But it's gone for me. War takes more than lives. It takes places too."